A dedicated garbage collector discovers a stunning secret outside a billionaire's estate. Dave had seen it all in his years as a garbage collector, but nothing prepared him for the day he stumbled upon a chilling secret outside Arthur Hawthorne's sprawling estate. Every Wednesday, Dave navigated the immaculate streets of the affluent neighborhood, where emerald lawns stretched out like a green carpet, and mansions towered like castles. Little did he know that his life was destined for a thrilling jolt of reality. He had just finished dumping a couple of shiny black trash bags when something unusual caught his eye. Tucked between a broken tennis racket and a stack of designer boxes was a blood-stained shirt, the deep crimson splotches stark against the crisp white fabric. His heart raced. Why would someone throw this away? With trembling fingers, he picked it up, horrified and oddly exhilarated. Inside his mind, sparks flew. The rhythmic hum of his regular life faded as curiosity whispered louder. This wasn't just trash. This was potential danger involved. Each week, he'd seen curious things left behind. Ripped-up contracts, strange letters marked with official seals, and even the remnants of parties that glimmered with excess and secrecy. But this, a blood-stained shirt, was different. It begged questions. Who did it belong to? And was Arthur Hawthorne hiding something behind his polished facade? As days blurred into weeks, Dave found himself searching through the garbage with renewed vigor, a dozen questions swirling in his mind. Week after week, strange items appeared. A dusty envelope addressed to nowhere, a carved wooden figure that looked unsettlingly like a shrunken head, and shockingly, more bloody fabric that seemed connected to each new discovery. Each quest into Arthur's discard brought an eerie thrill. Even his colleagues noticed the change in him, the way he studied the bags with a glint in his eye, the whispers of deep-seated secrets wrapping around his heart like vines. A missing person case from town haunted the community. Lily, a local artist with ties to the Hawthorne estate, had vanished without a trace months ago. Her disappearance weighed heavily on the town, filling residents with dread and making Dave's heart quicken whenever her name surfaced. One quiet morning, the sound of his footsteps echoed as he approached Arthur's bins. With fear pulsing through him, he lifted the lid, only to find a small, dusty journal buried beneath the garbage. Clutching it in his hand, the weight of discovery bore down on him. It felt significant. Each word could unravel a truth that had been locked away. But was he prepared for the implications? Dave's hands trembled. The bravado of curiosity now tangled with fear. Confronting the billionaire could mean exposing horrors. But what if Lily's truth lay intertwined within those pages? As he stood there in that moment of uncertainty, shadows crossed the manicured lawns, and he knew he had a decision to make. The stakes had never been higher. What dark secrets hid behind the walls of wealth and power? And was Dave ready to tear down the curtain covering Arthur's world? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As Dave stood there, journal in hand, he felt the world around him blur. This was it. His moment of truth. The pale morning light glimmered through the gnarled branches, casting ominous shadows on the ground. A chill raced down his spine, mixing with excitement and fear. He inhaled deeply, and just as he prepared to open the dusty cover, a loud crack echoed from the estate. His heart stopped. The sound was sharp and sudden, like thunder on a clear day. The manicured hedges trembled as a dark figure burst through the back gate. It was Arthur Hawthorne himself, his face a mask of fury and dread. Something about his expression made Dave's stomach twist. The billionaire wasn't just angry. He looked panicked. "Hey!" Arthur shouted, his voice cutting through the quiet. "What are you doing here?" Dave's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He instinctively clutched the journal closer to his chest. Just working," he stammered, but his mind raced. Had Arthur seen him rummaging through the trash? Did he suspect what Dave had found? Without waiting for a response, Arthur charged forward, his eyes locked on the journal. "Give that to me," he barked, his voice laced with desperation. There was something wild in his eyes, something that told Dave this wasn't just about a trash collector trespassing. Dave took a step back, hands raised in caution. "What's so important about it?" he asked, trying to sound braver than he felt. Arthur's jaw tightened, fury wrinkling his brow. "You don't know what you're messing with." He took another step closer, and Dave felt the weight of the world crashing down on him. And then, to Dave's complete shock, a loud crash echoed from inside the estate. The glass of a large window shattered, showering the ground with sparkling shards. In that instant, everything shifted. Dave blinked. The sound was followed by a woman's scream, a high, haunting sound that pierced through the air like a knife. "No!" Arthur shouted, panic replacing his fury. He sprinted back toward the estate, and in the chaos, Dave was frozen. All thoughts of the journal vanished, replaced by a flood of confusion and dread. The scream echoed again, filled with terror. Suddenly, the back door swung open, and Lily, missing for months, staggered out, her clothes ragged and streaked with dirt. Panic filled her eyes as she gasped for breath. "Help me," she cried, collapsing to the ground. Dave's heart raced as he rushed over, kneeling beside her, but everything inside him jolted with new fear. What had she been through? What secrets were intertwined with her disappearance? As he reached for her arm, reality hit him hard. In that moment, Arthur returned, his face pale, recognizing the woman on the ground. "Lily!" he shouted, horror etched across his features. But as he leaned over her, something flashed in his eyes, something that suggested he had more to hide than just guilt. Dave knew he had uncovered layers of a dark world, more complex than he ever imagined. The journal, the bloodied shirts, Arthur's frantic reaction, it all connected like a thread, pulling in a chaotic tapestry. His heart hammered as he realized he was caught in something bigger than himself. And just like that, the atmosphere shifted. Secrets could no longer stay buried under the polished veneer of wealth and privilege. What had Arthur been hiding all this time? As he watched Lily struggle to speak, Dave realized his life had changed forever. The stakes had never been higher, and he could feel the chill of the secrets wrapping around him like barbed wire. "Dave," Lily gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "You have you need to know the truth." The world spun, and he felt the walls closing in. What truth was she talking about? Dave knew he was about to dive deeper into a storm. Would he find his way back? Or was he already lost? As she lay on the ground, gasping for air, Lily's eyes flickered with a mixture of fear and relief. "You have to. You need to know the truth," she barely managed to whisper. A lump formed in Dave's throat as he looked into her terrified eyes. The world around them felt suspended, a stillness amidst the chaos. Arthur's expression shifted from panic to something darker. "No, stay away from her." He stepped forward, the rage returning like a tidal wave. The breath hitched in Dave's chest, and he instinctively shielded Lily with his body. What was happening here? Everything felt like a burning fuse, ready to explode. "Why are you here?" Lily cried, trying to pull herself up, but her body trembled. The fear in her voice cut through Dave. He knew something was off. Something was very wrong. Before he could respond, there was another crack of sound, sharp and menacing. A shadowy figure appeared at the edge of the estate, barely visible behind the hedges. A hooded individual, crouching, aiming straight at them with something glinting in the sunlight. Dave's heart raced. His instincts kicked in. "Get down," he shouted, pushing Lily closer to the ground. But then the figure fired a shot. Time slowed. The crack of the gun echoed, and Dave felt a sharp rush of adrenaline. No, he didn't even think. He lunged, diving over Lily as the bullet zipped past, shattering a nearby lamp like glass shrapnel raining down. Arthur's world exploded in fury. "What the hell? What are you doing?" He turned to look for the shooter, but Dave had no time to dwell on Arthur's reaction. He had to protect Lily. "Stay with me," he urged, his voice trembling. She squeezed his hand, eyes wide with both fear and trust. Was this truly happening? One moment, they were caught up in a desperate mystery, and now, bullets flew, the chaotic world twisted around them, and all he could think was that he must keep her safe. The figure disappeared behind the hedges just as abruptly. Silence draped over them like a thick blanket, and Dave's heart pounded in his ears. Arthur's breathing steadied, his face twisted in fury, though the panic had settled into something darker and more dangerous. "What did you do to her?" he hissed at Lily, fingers twitching like he wanted to reach for her, but was afraid to step closer. Lily's eyes widened, filled with horror as she managed to croak, "I didn't do anything. You have to believe me." And then it hit Dave. The blood-stained shirts, the journal, and the missing person case. Arthur stood there, a man wrapped in wealth and influence, but now, Dave could see the cracks. It wasn't just anger. There was desperation, a want to hide the truth. "Why were you hiding her?" Dave asked, his voice rising. "What are you involved in? You need to tell us, Arthur." A flicker of something, was it fear or regret, crossed Arthur's face. Just then, the back of the estate exploded in chaos. More sounds, crashing, yelling, and the hurried footsteps of people rushing out. A half-dozen uniformed officers streamed through the estate doors, chaos painted across their faces. "Get down, everyone get down," they shouted, guns drawn. What was happening? Was it just the fog of his own fear? Dave's mind raced. This couldn't all be happening at once. Arthur's face twisted in a snarl, and then, in the midst of it all, he turned to Dave with wild eyes. "You have no idea what you're meddling in." As he said it, something shifted in the air. Lily's eyes met Dave's, filled with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. "He's not who you think he is," she started to say. But before she could finish, sirens wailed in the distance, drowning her voice. Every instinct in Dave screamed for answers. As the blaring sounds echoed around them, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Nothing was what it seemed. What was the truth, and who were they really facing? As the officers surrounded them, he felt the tension wrapping tighter around him. What dark secrets were they about to uncover? The edge of betrayal loomed closer, and he feared it might slice through everything they knew. In that charged moment, silence blended with chaos. The police surrounded them, guns drawn, eyes wide with alarm. Every breath felt like a weight pressing down on Dave's chest. He shifted, trying to protect Lily, but Arthur's presence loomed like a dark cloud, mixing fury and fear. "You have no idea what you're meddling in," he spat again, voice tremoring with a mix of rage and desperation. But as officers shouted commands and the tension swelled, something inside Dave stirred. The moment felt off, like a string pulled too tight, ready to snap. Lily's gaze flickered to him, urging him to listen, to feel the gravity of their entangled lives. "He's not who you think he is," she attempted again, her voice cracking, her energy fading. Then out of nowhere, a loud bang shattered the air. A gunshot firing again, but not from the manicured gardens. It came from the estate's towering back door. The officers flinched, shifting their stances. A commotion erupted, voices rose, and panic painted the scene. Dave's heart raced, faster than he could follow. Lily clutched at Dave's arm. "We have to move." Her eyes were pleading. He nodded, instinct taking over. Just as he prepared to help her up, out of the blurry chaos emerged a shocking figure, silhouetted and dramatic. It was a woman, hair disheveled, stepping into the light. Rebecca, Arthur's voice dropped to a tremor. Dave blinked, confusion swirling. Who was she? The striking familiarity in her eyes sent a shiver down his spine. Rebecca regained her balance, her gaze darting left and right, a storm of raw emotion flashing across her features. "I know what you've done, Arthur," she shouted, voice strong yet panicked. "You can't hide it anymore." The world around them froze. The officers exchanging glances, uncertainty hanging in the air. "You shouldn't have come here," Arthur barked, but the crack in his facade widened. "Stop lying. The blood is on your hands," she screamed, words slicing through the tension. Dave could hardly comprehend what was happening. Was Arthur a killer? Lily shifted beside him, her breath hitching. "It can't be true." "Shut up," Arthur cried, anger shifting to fear, desperation spilling from his eyes. Dave felt the energy turn electric. In that instant, a new understanding unfurled. This wasn't just about missing artists or hidden journals. What has she seen? Dave's mind raced. "Rebecca, please," Arthur pleaded, stepping forward, his usual bravado quaking. "You don't know what will happen if you say anything." "Is that a threat?" she shot back, eyes unyielding. The scene morphed. Families gathered nearby. Whispers created a cloak of dread while the officers inched closer, uncertainty cloaking them like fog. It all happened so fast, voices overlapping like a broken record, truths tangled in a web of chaos. Then, without warning, as if someone pressed pause on reality, Rebecca clutched her chest, staggering back. "No!" Lily cried. "What's wrong?" Dave's heart dropped, confusion swirling dangerously within him. "I can't breathe," Rebecca gasped, face draining of color, collapsing to the grass like a marionette with cut strings. Panic erupted. The officers rushed toward her, but time slowed. Everything peeled away, except the sound of Dave's racing heart. What was happening? This felt unreal, as if a ghost emerged from the shadows, tearing apart their fragile reality. And in that moment of raw fear, with the sunlight spilling over the manicured lawns, Dave felt the veil of their lives tear apart. This tragic twist crashed into everything he thought he understood. Who was Rebecca? What did she know? Was Arthur the monster they feared? The officers began crowding around, ready to help. But as they rushed, a chilling thought enveloped Dave. What dark secrets were they about to unveil? With Lily still trembling beside him, he wondered if they were on the brink of uncovering something much bigger, something that would change everything. He reached for her hand, squeezing it tight. Could they trust Arthur? Could they even trust each other? The air buzzed with uncertainty, and a wild question lingered. How far did this nightmare reach? And were they ready for the truth? Lily's gasping breaths filled the air as chaos swirled around them. Dave knelt beside her, his heart pounding. Panic gripped him, and the words, "You need to know the truth," echoed in his mind. What truth? What truths had they stumbled into? The officers swiftly surrounded Rebecca, their radios crackling with urgency. "Get her a medic," one shouted. Dave's focus remained locked on the woman on the ground, who was now clutching her chest. Her face twisted with pain, eyes wide with an understanding that cut through the chaos like a knife. I can't believe," she struggled, words barely escaping her lips. Arthur shifted, confusion clouding his features. What's happening? The fear that had made him a monster now turned him into a man on the edge, desperate and lost. "She's lying, don't listen to her." A murmur broke out among the officers. "Wait, didn't she disappear too?" one asked. The crowd paused, their focus shifting to Arthur. "Confusion feeds on silence," Lily murmured, her weak voice breaking. Just then, a sharp noise punctured the air. A car screeched to a halt at the end of the driveway, tires burning against asphalt. Dave turned, eyes wide. The driver's door flung open, and a tall figure stepped out, silhouetted by the sun. He looked familiar, a thin man with dark hair and a wild, panicked expression. "Lily," he shouted, rushing toward them like a bullet. The crowd gasped. "Tom?" Lily's voice cracked. Recognition flooded her face. "You're here?" Tom reached them, out of breath and wide-eyed. "I thought I lost you." He knelt beside her, grabbing her hand. "We need to go. Now." The tension heightened as Tom's presence sliced through the urgency like lightning. Dave's heart raced with uncertainty. Who was this guy? More importantly, what did he know? "Stay away from her," Arthur barked, voice low and lethal. Tom shot him a glare, then shifted his gaze to Dave, speaking in a low whisper. "This is about her art. She found something she wasn't supposed to." "What are you talking about?" Dave's mind was spinning. At that moment, an officer stepped closer, eyes narrowing at Arthur. "Sir, we need to detain you for questioning." And just like that, everything shifted again. The true stakes began to unfurl. Blood and betrayal, like a ravenous beast within this web of secrets. "You're making a mistake," Arthur shouted, panic rising like smoke. "You have no idea what you're getting into. This isn't just about missing arts or missing people." Before anyone could respond, Lily's eyes went wide. "Tom, the piece, the one you brought." Her voice shot up, a clash of revelation and dread. "Do you still have it?" With heart-stopping clarity, Tom nodded, pulse racing. "I didn't know what to do, but we can't let him have it." Arthur's expression darkened. "What piece? What are you talking about?" Lily gritted her teeth. "You think this is all about your money? It's about what you did, Arthur. The art wasn't just art. It was a map to where they buried the truth." Tom's face twisted in shock at her words, but then clarity dawned. "If we don't get to that piece, then everyone is at risk." The crowd around them, the officers, the chaos shifted into a different tide. Confusion morphed into horror. Suddenly, a distant sound blurred into focus, a whirring, like a drone hovering above. The officers shouted, looking up, hands reaching for weapons. Dave felt cold dread creep up his spine. "Get down," he shouted again, pushing Lily and Tom behind him as the drone's shadows swept over them, its purpose unclear. And just like that, the chaotic night transformed into a whirlwind of layered deception, turning friends into enemies in a heartbeat. Dave's breath hitched. What laid beneath all this wealth, power, and pain? As he crouched low, staring into the world where shadows danced and secrets breathed, he realized none of them were safe. His heart raced, desperately wanting answers. What was this piece? What other horrors waited just beneath the surface? And who else was tangled in this dark, explosive dance? The truth might lead them to salvation, or to hell. The drone hovered ominously overhead, casting a dark shadow on the scene below. The officers' shouts grew frantic, hearts racing into chaos. Dave crouched low, his body shielding Lily and Tom. Adrenaline surging. "Who's controlling that thing?" he blurted out, eyes darting. "Does it matter?" Tom shot back, panic gripping his voice. "We need to grab Lily and get out of here." But as everyone's attention shifted to the drone, no one noticed the figure moving through the back gate. A woman, her face obscured by the shadows, slipped out of the estate, unnoticed by the unfolding drama. Lily gasped. "It's the piece. We need to find it first." Her words were frantic, urgency clawing at her voice. But before they could move, the drone emitted a loud whirring, descending rapidly. In the split second that followed, a blinding flash erupted above them, bright and searing. "Get down!" one officer screamed. The world froze. A low boom resonated, vibrating through the air, followed by a deafening crack. An explosion! The estate's lavish facade disintegrated in a fiery burst, glass raining down like deadly confetti. Screams erupted, a cacophony of shock and terror. Dave shielded Lily and Tom, his heart hammering wildly. Dust and smoke churned around them, making it hard to breathe. "We need to move," he urged, panic rising. Arthur's face twisted in horror and disbelief. "What have you done?" he murmured, staring at the wreckage surging with flames. But in that moment, he looked less like the powerful billionaire, and more like a man cornered. "Shut up," Tom yelled, shoving Arthur aside as he pulled Lily closer. "Come on!" They stumbled forward, away from the chaos. But as they moved, the edge of the flames illuminated something in the rubble. A small box, black and scorched, but still intact. Something inside called to Dave. "Wait!" he shouted, breaking free from Tom and Lily's grasp. He darted toward the box, desperate and curious. It felt important, like a lost piece of a puzzle. Just as he reached for it, The mysterious woman reappeared, lunging ahead of him. "Stop!" she hissed, voice low and urgent. And in that moment, everything shifted. The world swirled, the chaos fading as her piercing eyes locked onto Dave. "You don't want to know. You can't handle the truth." But it was too late. The woman's frantic energy crackled in the air as Dave grabbed the box. The instant his fingers touched it, a jolt surged through him, a shock that felt electric, resonating deep within. Suddenly, images flooded his mind, a vivid scene of deception, betrayal, and a twisted connection to Arthur. "What the hell?" he gasped, stepping back, dropping the box. Hues of truth twisted his perception like a running river. "Run!" the woman shouted, fear slicing through her voice. "You're in danger!" It felt like the ground shook beneath them. The officers were regrouping, focus shattering, the chaos growing. In the confusion, Tom shouted in horror, "We need to get out of here, now!" But the woman glared fiercely at Arthur, her voice cutting deeper than the flames behind them. "You thought you could bury this forever? We'll expose you. Arthur! Everyone will know!" At that moment, the pieces fell together. The missing art, the transformation of what they had thought was ambition, now revealed as something more sinister. Dave's chest tightened. The truth felt like a hurricane, ready to be unleashed. As if on cue, the earth shook again, and the drone, now spiraling out of control, crashed down. The explosion sent fragments flying, and just like that, everything shifted into chaos once more. "Get down!" Dave yelled again, but as he dove to cover Lily and Tom, he felt a searing pain slice through his side. He gasped, shock igniting through him. "Dave!" Lily cried, her voice filled with dread. The woman's eyes widened, regrets flickering across her face. "I'm sorry. I tried to warn you," she shouted, rushing toward him, but everything spun. The world dimmed as the reality of betrayal lingered. Trust shattered like glass. What was happening? Confusion and fear melted, revealing deeper shadows and layers. Dave blinked, struggling to process. Beyond the chaos and urgency, lingering dread pulsed in the air. They were not just caught up in a twisted story of wealth and greed. They were connected, destined to uncover something far darker than they ever imagined. As darkness threatened to engulf him, his vision blurred. Was he ready for the truth? Would any of them survive what was coming next? Dave felt the world fading around him, the heat from the explosion creating a blistering haze. The fiery light flickered behind him, shadows dancing, swirling chaos closing in. Pain sparked through his side, cold and sharp. He gasped for breath, clutching his abdomen. The woman had warned him, had tried to save him, but it was too late. "Dave!" Lily's voice pierced through the storm of noise. She was crouched beside him, eyes wide with terror, and her hand was on his arm, clutching him as if he were her lifeline. "Are you okay?" he whispered, struggling to focus. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder in his ears, but everything shifted in a heartbeat. The moment his hand met the ground, fingers brushing against the charred earth, the scream of the drone still buzzing, an overwhelming force surged through the smoldering debris. And then, the ground shook beneath them. "Get out! Move!" Tom shouted, pulling Lily away from Dave. But it was too late. A blinding flash erupted from the flaming wreckage, brighter than the sun. Like a magnet, it pulled everything in, dust, ash, the scent of burning turf. But even more jarring was the sound that followed. A deafening roar pierced through the air. And then, silence. Instantly, the clouds parted, revealing a daunting figure amidst the chaos. A man emerging from the flames like a ghost. His clothes were tattered, his expression twisted with rage. But what caught them completely off guard was the sight of the woman beside him. The one who had crashed into their world with such urgency. "Rebecca," Arthur gasped, his voice trembling, an unsettling mixture of fear and disbelief. The figure didn't answer, but instead raised a glimmering object high above her head, a small, ornate dagger shimmering in the sunlight. "You thought you could bury this, Arthur? Hide behind your money?" she shouted, defiance, lacing her tone. "No," Arthur's face twisted, layers of fear peeling back to reveal raw panic. "Get away from that." But it was too late. The blade glinted menacingly, and the world swung once more. Dave felt a new energy crackle in the air, a shift that sent shivers racing up his spine. What was going on? Was this a game of power? The pieces were falling together, but the bigger picture blared with confusion and dread. Next to him, Lily's eyes darted between Arthur and the now threatening Rebecca, a battle of wills unfolding. "What's happening?" she gasped. But Dave had no answers, who felt trapped in a storm, swirling with secrets and lies. "Give it to me, Rebecca," Arthur demanded, frustration boiling over. In his voice, in a heartbeat, the air thickened, the tension soared. "You don't deserve it." She gripped the dagger tighter, face steady, but her body trembling slightly. Dave turned to Tom, desperation flooding his veins. "What does it mean? What are they fighting over?" Tom shook his head, fear etched across his features. "I don't know." But as they spoke, a flicker of movement caught Dave's eye. From behind the chaos, the mysterious woman, a fellow player in this twisted game, struck. "It's your turn to answer for everything," she snapped, hurtling toward Arthur at lightning speed. The dagger gleamed dangerously, slicing through the air just as a brittle truth began to emerge. The crowd had started to stir, whispers rippling like a wave. Crashing across the manicured lawns, people were peeking out from behind cars, eyes wide with shock and confusion. And then the most shocking thing happened. Arthur's expression changed. Fear morphed into a smirk, a dark calculation blooming behind his eyes, his demeanor radiating confidence. "You think you can threaten me in my own estate? You're all mistaken." The revelation hit harder than the explosion itself. "What are you talking about?" Dave shouted, stunned. But as Arthur stepped forward, it was clear. He wasn't the hunted, but the predator. "Surprised, aren't you?" Arthur laughed, a low and ominous sound that churned in the pit of Dave's stomach. "This isn't just about art and money. This is about power. And you've all become pawns in my game." Suddenly, the illusion of chaos settled into something horrifyingly clear. An unseen hand guided each move. The dagger, the deception, it was all a part of a twisted game. Dave stared at Arthur, realization crashing over him like waves. You set this all up." With a cold gaze, Arthur smirked. "Welcome to the real world," he sneered. And with that, everything spiraled into darkness. Was it all a trap? Who could they trust now? The ground trembled under their feet, and the shadows of betrayal enveloped him. In that pivotal moment, the truth emerged like a blade, poised to cut deeper than any wound they had endured. What else had they overlooked? What horrors awaited in their desperate search for answers? Each heartbeat thrummed with uncertainty, and as Dave's vision blurred, he grasped Lily's hand tighter, knowing one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. As the blast reverberated, Dave's heart felt like it would explode too. The panic in the air hung heavy, thick enough to choke on. The world spun, flames licking at the edges of his vision, and he pushed away from the ground with all his strength. "Lily, Tom," he shouted, his voice almost lost in the chaos. He turned, desperately searching the faces around him, but everything blurred, a whirlwind of smoke and screams, each sound slicing through him. Arthur's furious expression melted into the background, a darkness twisted by flames. Pushing through the haze, he tried to find them. Just before he could spot Lily's terrified face or Tom's frantic movements, the woman, Rebecca, shouted again. "You don't understand. They're coming." "Who's coming?" Dave yelled back, fueled by fear and the urge to protect Lily. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, something larger than life crashed from the flaming wreckage. Hulking shadows moved, silhouettes emerging, drifting through the smoke. People gaped and gasped, pointing and stumbling back as the figures materialized, emblazoned by the burning fire. No, it can't be. Arthur's voice quivered, realization dawning on him, eyes wide with horror. The crowd murmured, shifting uneasily, fear rippling through them like an electric current. And then, from the shadows, a familiar face stepped out, a face that sent Dave's heart plummeting into his stomach. "Uncle Frank," he whispered, disbelief crashing into him like a wave. He hadn't seen Frank in years. The last time they spoke, it ended badly. "What are you doing here?" But it wasn't just Frank. Shadows swirled around him, figures stepping into view, one after another. Familiar faces from Dave's past. Friends he thought he'd lost forever. People who had vanished when his life tilted sideways. "Dave." Frank's voice was a harsh whisper, sharp like glass. "You need to listen to me. It's not what you... Why are you here?" Anger welled up in Dave. Emotions clawed at him. Betrayal, confusion. "You left us, you abandoned us all." Just then, a tense silence enveloped them, the world falling away as everything focused on Frank. The memory of their last encounter burned in Dave's mind, hot and raw. He remembered the feeling of betrayal, the sharp words they'd exchanged. "Are you really here?" Lily asked, eyes wide, her trembling hand gripping Dave's. The truth unfurled in the air, a dark twist to the narrative they had thought was straightforward. And just then, a flicker of movement caught Dave's eye. Off to the side, a woman resembling Rebecca, but different, more menacing, was lurking. Her eyes glinted like knives, and in her hand she held what looked like the same dagger Rebecca had brandished moments before. "Stop!" Dave shouted, taking a step forward. "What do you want?" That woman grinned, a sly smile etching across her face. "Honestly, I'm just here to collect what's mine. What's yours?" Dave's insides twisted. "What are you talking about?" "It's all about the art, sweetie," she purred, her voice slinking through the smoke. "It always was, and now it's time to settle old scores." Frank stepped forward, almost protecting Dave, his expression twisting into something conflicted. "You don't understand. They're not just after the art. They're after us, all of us who were involved. There's more at stake here than you know." The weight of his words settled like a stone in Dave's stomach. "What do you mean?" As seconds stretched endlessly, everything crashed down around them. The fire roared, shadows moved, and reality tilted. Then came the truth, an earth-shattering revelation as another figure emerged. This one even more shocking. A man in a sharp suit who stood calmly amidst the chaos, a knowing smile playing across his lips. It was someone Dave would never have expected. "Dad," he gasped, the world tilting once again. "You? What is happening?" "Welcome home, son," his father said, tone cold and mocking. Was this all a carefully orchestrated web? Who was truly on whose side? The bombshell ricocheted through the air, echoing unmercifully, every certainty shattered, and the very ground felt unstable. Dave blinked, confusion spiraling like a tempest. How far did the deception go? Would he ever uncover the truth? Was he caught in a game far bigger than he imagined? The walls of his world were collapsing, and he was left teetering on the brink, desperate for answers. "Dave," his father's voice was smooth but sharp, cutting through the chaos like a knife. "You need to understand your place in all of this." "Understand what?" Dave shot back, anger flaring. Everything spun, flames lighting up the night, his own heart racing as panic danced through the crowd. "This isn't a game." But the urgency in Frank's eyes only deepened. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he pleaded, hands raised as if to calm the storm brewing around them. Without warning, the woman with the dagger stepped closer. "You're all players in this twisted game, and you might not make it out alive." Her voice dripped with warning steeped in dread. Arthur's face lost its bravado, shifting into something darker. "Shut up, Rebecca. You think you can come here with your threats and walk away unscathed? You don't know me, don't I?" She shot back, tilting her chin defiantly. You think I'm playing by your rules, Arthur? Look around. She gestured wildly, eyes flashing as the officers struggled to contain the chaos. This whole place is crumbling, and you brought it all down yourself. Behind them, the heat surged. Dave could almost feel the flames licking the edges of his coat as he instinctively stepped back, pulling Lily closer. "Will someone just tell me what's happening?" Tom yelled, throwing his hands up in frustration. The crowd murmured and the police tightened their grips on their weapons, uncertain of what threat lay ahead. And then in a split second, everything changed. A loud crash came from the estate, shattering the tense atmosphere. It echoed through the chaos, sending dust and debris flying like tiny clouds of panic. Everyone turned, wide-eyed and breathless. From the wreckage, another figure emerged. A woman smoking and battered, clothing torn. It took a heartbeat for Dave to realize who it was. "Is that? No way." "Lily," she gasped, voice trembling but firm, and the world fell silent again. "What?" Dave breathed, shock paralyzing him. "How are you here?" But before they could draw closer, Lily's eyes widened, horror painted across her face. "It can't be. No. You shouldn't be here." She looked at the woman as if she were seeing a ghost. "You're supposed to be gone." "Gone? I was never gone." The woman snarled, but beneath the fury, guilt flickered. "You don't understand, any of you." The crowd stood still, breaths held in tense anticipation. People exchanged glances, eyes bouncing between the unexpected reunion. "Who are you?" Tom said, pushing closer. "What do you know?" "I know that everything about Arthur is a lie," she shouted, eyes blazing. "He's not who you think. He's been pulling the strings, hiding the truth while we've all fought his battles." Dave's heart raced, each phrase weaving deeper threads of confusion. What truth? They had only scratched the surface. But now, it felt like all the air had been sucked out of the place. As tension escalated, Arthur stepped back, visibly shaken. "You're making a mistake. I've been protecting you all from the real danger." "Protecting us?" The shock ignited a fire in Dave. "You've manipulated us. You've hurt us." But just as Arthur seemed cornered, another figure from the crowd stepped forward. A police officer from earlier. "Enough of this," he thundered, eyes darting around, scanning the chaos. "Everyone needs to stand down now." Then silence fell again, thick enough to cut. "Wait," Dave whispered, something dawning on him. That wasn't just any officer. He recognized him. "You were part of it too." The truth hit like ice water. This was all planned, but then something louder erupted in the distance. Sirens blared closer, and beyond the voices, someone shouted, "Get down! Everyone get down!" "What now?" Lily cried, voice straining against the noise. And right then, time collapsed. A blinding light cut through the darkness, and with a deafening roar, chaos unfurled once more. The last thing Dave saw was the glee on Arthur's face transformed into panic. "No, not now," he screamed. And then, boom, just like that. The ground rose, and everything exploded into a cacophony of screams and terror. What lay ahead? A terrifying unknown awaited them all. Were the true stakes even higher than they had imagined? The explosion shook the ground as everything around them blurred into chaos. Dave could barely catch his breath amidst the rising smoke and confusion. Lily clung to him, her eyes wide with fear, unrelenting. He felt the warmth of her hand, grounding him amidst the disarray. "Lily, we need to go." His voice barely made it above the cacophony of screams and sirens that surrounded them. She nodded, but her gaze was fixed on Rebecca, who stood, dagger raised high, eyes locked on Arthur. It was as if time had momentarily frozen, every heartbeat stretching into eternity. Arthur's bravado cracked, a veneer of control slipping away as the sound of chaos soared around them. "You've exposed too much, Rebecca," Arthur shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Do you think they'll believe you? You're just as guilty." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Rebecca's face. almost enough to make Dave wonder if it was true. But the resolve in her eyes quickly reignited. "I've been living in your shadow long enough, Arthur. This ends today." The air thickened with tension. Frank stepped forward, the shadows of their past lighting up his expression. "You can't hide behind lies anymore, Arthur. We know the truth." But Arthur wasn't ready to give in. "Oh, what lies are what keep this world spinning, Frank. You're all too naive to see the bigger picture." His voice grew bitter, twisting excitement and fear into something menacing. A crack rang out. The drone, smoke still pouring out of it, landed, and it was almost as if the hallowed moment had turned into a grotesque climax. And then, as if pulled by strings, the crowd erupted. Panic surged. People ran shouting as the realization hit them. Danger lurked in every corner. "Get down," shouted the officers, moving in, trying to regain control. In the midst of the chaos, Dave caught movement from behind. The hooded woman shifted, eyes dark like an unending night. She lunged forward. "You think this is over?" "There's still so much at stake." Dave's heart raced. Were they really all just pawns in this cruel game? But before he could process it all, something flickered in Arthur's eyes, a mix of fear and anger. "You think you can take everything from me?" "Think again." And then, in one fluid motion, he rushed toward Rebecca, as if to grab the dagger. "No!" Dave shouted, adrenaline surging. Without thinking, he dove in between them, arms flailing, fear gripping him like a vice. His body collided with Arthur's, and they both went tumbling to the ground, the dagger slipping from Rebecca's grasp. The blade skated across the ground, reflecting the chaos around them. In that crucial moment, however, it was Lily's voice that rang out clearly above the din. "Stop! This has to end!" Everyone fell silent, eyes shifting toward her, tension crackling in the air. "Enough of this," she continued, fire igniting her spirit. "We can't keep letting secrets drag us down. We have to embrace the truth, even if it hurts." And then, as if hoping for clarity, Rebecca stepped forward, shaking but determined. "Lily's right. We're stronger if we stand together. You can't fight the truth, Arthur." For a long moment, Arthur remained still, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The war within him raged, and then slowly, all the bravado faded. I never wanted it to come to this," he murmured, exhaustion weighing him down, the fight drifting away. "Then stop fighting it." Frank said softly, "Let it go. Face what you've done." In the flickering firelight, the air shifted. Arthur's shoulders sagged under the weight of their combined resolve, the heroic intensity fading, revealing a man burdened with untold regret. "I can't," he started, but trailed off, the words falling like ashes into the chaos. Just then, the police surged forward, and the officers formed a protective barrier around them. "You're all safe now. We're taking control," one officer declared, confidence flooding their tone. The professional force shone through, even as the remnants of fear hung thick in the air. "I'll tell the truth." Arthur broke through the murmur, his voice ragged but honest. "I will face the consequences." With that, Dave's stomach unclenched, as if something heavy had lifted. They had faced shadows together, and maybe, just maybe, there was light on the other side. The storm had raged long enough. As the crowd began to disperse, people hugging, crying, embracing the remnants of shattered trust, Dave turned towards Lily and Tom. "We made it," he breathed, eyes shimmering with relief. Lily smiled through her tears. "Yeah, we did." Rebecca, watching them, finally found some semblance of peace. "You all deserve better than this. I'm sorry for everything." "No one is perfect. We carry our scars," Frank replied, voice softening. "But there's always hope." And in that moment of fragile beauty, they all locked eyes, breathing as one. They were united in their fight, stronger for having faced the truth together. As sirens faded into the distance, the fire of the estate dimmed. They had survived the darkness and emerged into the dawn. Now, as they stepped into the uncertain light, a final whispered promise lingered in the air. "And you know what? This adventure might have ended here, but your own journey is just beginning. So, you have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. If you truly love the content, smash that like button right now, because it feeds the algorithm and helps us grow this amazing community. Flood the comment section and tell us your thoughts and theories about this ending. I can't wait to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support makes all the difference. Let's keep this adventure alive together.